and looking at job search strategies with fresh eyes. We know that with this celebration, it's also paired with um, this job search getting situated and getting focused, of course. But hopefully, you were able to take some time to celebrate this completion of your hard earned degree. And we just wanted to light up the Zoom room, with some virtual confetti and Zoom room chat cheering. So please do so, because all of us at the Office of Career Services are very proud of you all. And we're joining both in celebrating with you as well as continuing to support you alongside you in your job search. And if I haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, I am Tina Lin. I am the career coach here at CUNY SPH. Meet with students and recent alum in one-on-one career coaching appointments, as well as hosting these workshop events. And just as a reminder, the OCS, the Office of Career Services, supports all students and alumni across all of our programs at SPH. So for those of you who have recently graduated, your status is no longer a student, but an alum, and you can absolutely still use our services. So you have access to everything you had with career services as a student, and everything will continue. What changes after the 1 year mark of being an alum is the availability of those individual 30-minute career coaching appointments. So, and those are reserved mainly for current students and new alum under 1 year out. So if you haven't already booked a career coaching appointment, please do so within the year. And we're definitely here to support you, and just really wanted to emphasize that point before we begin. It's not like you graduated and that's it. Resources and support will continue to be available to you, and we're aware that this might even be when you're reaching out to our office for the very first time, or need the most support from our office, especially in this environment. So whether you're just starting or continuing your career in public health, we've designed this workshop to cover a wide range of career paths in public health, and also just talking about the job search strategy in general. And I invite you to ask questions in the chat. If you'd like to raise your hand or unmute yourself, you can absolutely make this as interactive as you like. As you can see, there's tons of questions that have come in, and we'll be having some time for Q&A at the end as well, along with giving some bonus designated time for breakout rooms to meet with your peers and share. So as we get ahead and get started, today's workshop is going to cover several different job strategies to consider in your individual job search process. So what this might look like, starting with some exploration and reflection, and then strengthening on how to identify opportunities, and networking as a main job search strategy, especially in times like this. And then also considering when to revise that strategy if you're getting stuck along the way, or not even hearing back after submitting applications. And then lastly, how to stay organized in your job search. So before we begin, I'd love to get a sense of what are the biggest felt needs in the room today. And so that Zoom poll that you all had started taking a look at before, let's take a look at some of those results. So, and also, if you feel comfortable with sharing too, would love to hear more about some anecdotes, like what stage of the job search are you currently in, and where are you feeling stuck? And so earlier before, when there were just 10 people in the room, it looks like there's a mix of those that are just starting, others that are actively searching and researching, and others that are actively applying. The majority are already applying, and that you're sending out targeted applications. And there's one person that's been interviewing so far. And just some of the things where, well, people, I guess the majority of people are feeling stuck. So I'd be interested to hear, where are some of the spaces that you're feeling stuck? If anybody would be open to sharing where you're at. Feel free to use the Zoom chat or unmute. something that we often hear is that stuck feeling of not hearing back after applying. I mean, could we get some hands in the Zoom room if that's the case for you? Or, um,
You
and I
know,
know somebody unmuted. Would you like to share, Brian?
yeah, sure, I can share. I for the poll, I answered them just starting because I'm currently employed, but trying to see what else is out there. But I think where I'm stuck at is it's been like a while since I had to do a job search again. So, and public health is such a broad field, so I'm just trying to like figure out the best titles to search for. If I search by company or like how to tailor which terms I use. So it's like more like in the initial stage, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great to hear, Brian. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks.
And kind of like looking at kind of like how did you narrow that spot for you, right? Like when public health is so broad. That's a really
Right.
great point. Anybody else? We'll take one or two more volunteers. Balancing priorities, right? Like life is so busy, and like just trying to, you know, and I will say career wellness, on the topic of career wellness, having that balance for yourself and that priority too, is so important because the job search is such a roller coaster. And like, when I've talked to some other folks that are maybe more towards the interviewing stage, like they've already sent out lots and lots of applications. And now they're getting some invitations for interviewing, but they're like 2 to 3 interviews, like all combined week after week after week. And to keep your energy up is so important because it's kind of like in that interview, they want to see that very best, right? But if you're exhausted and that sort of thing, so how do you maintain that sense of wellness for yourself, right? And that balance may shift as different things happen in your life. Other people have shared, yeah, it's just like in this environment that of so much going on, with current events and with like federal funding situations and that sort of a thing, kind of like how to navigate through this climate as well. So thank you everybody for kind of sharing where you're at, and like as you can see, you're in good company. You're not alone in this, and I think that's in times like this is even community is even more important. And so like as we also I hope it helps to see where everybody else is at too, so that way we can kind of like join one another in sharing things that have helped each other and get some more guidance. And Brian, like to your question earlier before too, like how to narrow that, it really getting started, and a career coaching pro tip that can be helpful is taking this power pause and really reflecting on yourself as a step in the job search process. So even if you've already started, this can be a time to take a step back before you continue applying. And so this reflection, it can include your interests, strengths, motivations, and within pursuing a career in public health. Thinking about the academic and professional experiences you've had, like what have you enjoyed, what have you not enjoyed? I think sometimes that's equally as important, right? And can you identify what are the greatest skills that you have? Sometimes that can be hard to articulate, right? Like thinking about those academic and professional experiences, and what you've enjoyed and not enjoyed, and conducting that skills assessment. Sometimes, some of you have used SWOT, like strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, right? Like using that as a way to like assess, like what are your top skills? What are things that motivate you? What are things that drain you? What are gap areas of skills that you want to develop? Those hard skills versus the soft skills. Those hard skills are like the highly teachable or more technical areas that can be often learned in a classroom or online, or it can be quantified. Things such as like advanced proficiency in R or Python or SAS or fluency in another language. And then soft skills, on the other hand, are those often how you like relate to carrying out your job and how you interact with other people. So some examples of that include time management, flexibility, leadership, interpersonal skills, communication, persuasion. So the skills and self-assessment can be a very helpful first step for oneself in order to have a sense of like, what is the information that you're trying to put out there to employers? What is it about your accomplishments, abilities, and characteristics, and that you're trying to highlight and emphasize in your documents so that employers will read your materials, right? Like, what do you want to share about yourself to the hiring manager? What are those qualities and characteristics that you're trying to convey to your target audience? And so job descriptions, this is like the other piece is like when reading these job descriptions, to have that sense of those skill sets, interests, and what your focus is and what you want to do in public health. Your reading of the job description, you can kind of compare and do an analysis on what overlaps or what doesn't overlap, or maybe what you haven't considered within the job description to better understand what jobs or careers might be a good fit for you, right? So which areas or skill sets have you felt like you haven't been able to tap into or really develop as much yet, and areas that you'd really like to grow as well. So this can really help inform your search, like using job descriptions as a way to kind of like match that up with your self-assessment around like these roles, these functions, these skill sets, these companies, departments. And I will say that not everyone is able to land their dream job on the very first try, but every experience is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and help you discover where you want to be. It's not a linear journey. And also remember that the next job doesn't need to be permanent. Thinking critically about how your skills fit in with available opportunities, and also like what's in your search criteria, right? Like, so kind of even thinking like prioritizing what matters most to you for this next year, for this just next step. Like, is it about having the chance to deepen a particular skill? Or, is it getting in with an organization that you hope to work with for long term? So you can try to secure a role to get your foot in the door, and then you learn what other opportunities there might be to grow within that organization in the long run. And also like thinking about, in terms of priorities, like, are you willing or able to accept temporary, part-time, or contract-based? What are your options outside of full-time employment, if that's something that's feasible for you based on a job or what you might need from a role? So making sense of what matters most to you will also help you target opportunities, and maybe also think about which ones just to let go of for those that aren't the right fit based on criteria and goals for this upcoming next year. So in summary, just using reflection and exploration as a starting point, with yourself, like myself, I think of these 4 M's: myself, the marketplace, that match that fits your goals, your priorities, your situation, and making sense of that new next step. And also, I think that other M is like managing expectations and balancing your wellness. So if it's helpful to talk this out, then set your one-on-one appointment to meet with for career coaching. That's what we're here for. And these workshops, really, we just skim the surface, but to really go deep and to tailor the conversation to your particular situation, please come by and share your journey with us, and we'd be happy to provide additional resources and support. So next, like, once you have a sense of your priorities and what you're looking for, where do you find these opportunities? Like, where do you search? So for those that have been searching and applying, are there any go-to sites that you've found that have been helpful for PH jobs, for public health jobs? If you want to drop that in the chat, here's a chance to share out things with your SPH community. As mentioned before, Career Services has a weekly email that comes out every Wednesday. And so what I would recommend you do is like keep your SPH email active. If you haven't already done so, I know that there's so many emails, so maybe just set a folder and for the career services emails, and then check it every Thursday. That way you know that you can get this email on a Wednesday. That comes out every Wednesday. You could just look at it because it has opportunities and companies that are linked to your Handshake account. If you click on those links, it'll just bring you right there. And it's so that's available every week. There are aggregate job boards like Indeed, Idealist, LinkedIn. I think some of those folks have already been using them. Definitely checking company specific websites. And another place to check is professional associations. Let me just drop a link in the chat. Sorry, it's like talking in. One second, I'm going to drop a tip sheet in the chat with some additional links. So this could also be helpful as well in your job search, looking at different associations or maybe even by specific target areas as well. Let me just pull that up so I could bring it up and show it to you all. So there's general websites as well as, public health specific websites around academic or biospace, governmental sites. And here are those kinds of associations that might be helpful to take a look at as well in professional associations. So additional places to sort of like expand and broaden the places where you're going to look. And in the next few slides, letting people in your network know that you're looking. That's the most common is the word of mouth and one of the most effective. And so just like in terms of this idea on networking, which can seem like an abstract concept about like, what is it and how is it done? Just curious, like, has anybody applied networking in their job search? And, did you have a positive or negative experience with that? If there's anybody that would like to share. Anybody tried networking before? Some folks are sharing about like not sure how to get started with it, but wanting to learn. And, at its core, networking really is about being curious, asking questions, and having conversations. And I feel like public health professionals or you've been trained in your public health classes to have that curiosity and ask good questions. And for our community health educators, like having those great conversations. I think the key thing for networking is that it's not asking for a job, but that it's rather it's about asking for advice to improve your job search. So networking allows you to gain insights into companies, industries, roles, and fields of interest, and can help you clarify your interests and goals while building relationships with people who may be able to help you start or grow in your career. So building relationships may lead to discovering upcoming or unadvertised opportunities, what we call the hidden job market. So, because not all opportunities are posted online. So having those conversations may help you discover what those opportunities and what employers value, especially having these referrals over like that traditional aspect of the hiring process. And like just another question that we had asked before was how many have done informational interview, and the vast majority have not. And so I guess like these words, networking and informational interviewing, those are all sort of like, I would say very clinical words when really networking is just about building relationships with people that colleagues that you will be working with or people in the industry. That's it. It's just like being a neighbor, just like you're a classmate, and that sort of thing. And this idea of like informational interviewing, it's just like another very like academic-y term for professional coffee chat, which is essentially your you are interviewing a professional to get information from them about what's going on in industry or their career journey or just advice, right? And so some common questions in sort of like this informational interviewing or just like making this networking connection can be around like task and responsibilities, around like what they're going through in their workplace, and what they find rewarding. I think the key is that it's not about asking for a job; it's about asking for advice, right? So sticking with that, and like also getting insights on industry knowledge, right? Like good questions to ask them are like, well, what are some industry publications that you read regularly to stay up to date on trends, right? And because if they recommend something, there could be further information on there, and that could be an additional speaking point the next time you speak with somebody else. And like asking them some advice. It's like, oh, so like, what are some of these entry level job titles, like at companies that you've seen, right? Or even asking them if they're a part of any professional associations, and that to get suggestions on places to get involved or conferences or events. So getting their advice on that and kind of like mapping out like who is currently in your network and how can you expand out. And let me just drop another tip sheet in the chat. I know today it's going to have like a lot of resources. This is a resource heavy. Okay. Kind of like thinking through who your contacts are and listing people out and just letting your network know. It's like, hey, I've graduated, celebrating this month, would really love to reconnect and catch up as I'm starting my next chapter. And it could be as simple as that, just to get some time. It's always best to have the first thing is meeting person to person. Like if you're able to have coffee or a meal or just meet up for like a walk or something, that's ideal. The next best thing is speaking via like face to face, like on Zoom is great. And then the next one below that is a phone call, right? Like just emails back and forth, that's a very binary, like any written communication is very binary versus like a 10-minute conversation can go in lots of different directions, like a quick chat. Maybe the first time catching up can be a longer one. And then after that, it's just an ongoing. And then it makes the emails and the texts much easier afterwards. And so just looking at and thinking through, mapping out who those contacts are currently in your network, like who will talk to you, maybe starting with those family, those friends. It could be a mentor, former supervisors, maybe your preceptor from your field work, or colleagues there, any current colleagues or employees in different departments at your current job. They could even be folks from your like undergraduate, right? Like if you haven't spoken to them in a while. So I just wanted to give you this page to like brainstorm and see if there's anybody that might have any trouble identifying people or like what's easy and challenging about doing this. So hopefully you can kind of think of maybe one or two names of folks that you might want to reach out to based off of that list that I rattled off. Anybody want to share how this exercise, this brainstorm exercise is? Yeah, and especially your professors, your CUNY SPH professors. So if you feel ready to branch out, beyond like those that have been identified within your current network, you might want to consider like contacting SPH alum. And there's events put together by SPH, as well as community events that are out there as well. And like the public health professional associations, as mentioned before, is a great place to look. And I think there's going to be resources that we're going to talk more about APHA, the American Public Health Association, and utilizing that resource. Let me see what's the chat. There's a lot of things going on in the chat. Yeah, Brian, I love that. Like using friends that are in public health and talking to them. Like if you're linked in with your friend, look through your friend's LinkedIn contacts to see if they could refer you to other folks, or ask them, hey, Tina, how do you know Taylor from such and such company? Because that's a company that I've been wanting to learn more about. Could you connect us? And then if they say yes, then what you would do is you could just send your friend an email and just say, hey, Tina, like, thanks for offering to connect me to your friend Taylor that works at such and such place. Like, I'd really value the opportunity to connect further, as I've just graduated and starting the next season in my in next chapter, and interested in learning more about Taylor's work and her company. And then have your email signature. So like if you create these templates, outreach templates, it'll make it more efficient for you to send these things out to multiple people, right? Like in your network, friends or people that are in the field, right? But you're already doing this research first by being specific about like identifying somebody, and then making it the legwork easy for them, because they could just, then I can just forward that to over to Taylor, right? And if it has all your contact information, if Taylor wants to get in touch with you, they can, right? And Danielle, hopefully this is helpful and just like a starting place. And maybe it's not about reaching out, but maybe just doing the research on who might be interesting. And then we could talk more about how to do that outreach. And usually it, kind of like you see this expanding from the middle, like starting with people that are close to you, people that you already know that are willing to help you out. And you might be surprised by who they might know, right? So that's definitely something that we can kind of tackle together and overcome together in talking more. But hopefully this is helpful. Annika shared that a challenge is like, many contacts are not in the same boat, and feeling like there haven't been enough strong relationships with more connected colleagues. And I think like, that's where starting with maybe just your SPH peers, or like we're starting with people that you might have something in common with, such as CUNY SPH, right? Whether they're colleagues, classmates, or they're alumni just like you, right? Or any CUNY SPH events, or any CUNY, it could even be CUNY, right? And definitely these professional associations are a great place. Christine, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes. I just feel like it is a little like frustrating in a little way, because like just I guess it's a normal feeling trying to apply and then waiting. It's like the waiting thing, and then like it's out of your hands in a way. and just because it's like competitive too. And it just kind
Yeah.
of starts to feel a little like overwhelming and feeling bad about it because like
Yeah.
you're trying to do everything possible, but then like it's just not happening at the right time. Like it's all about timing too, I guess,
Mm,
in a way.
it
Like,
isn't. Yeah, in some ways it is. I feel like, and it, that timing is also, I mean, definitely it is a tough market out there.
mhm,
And like to your point, like, it's competitive out there. And I think that, so like the things that are in your control is kind of like, you know, getting nailing sort of like the process in terms of having that doing that self-reflection, right? Like knowing what you're looking for, and what your priorities and goals are, and those skills assessments, and then having strong materials that you can kind of like apply to stuff out there, right? So, and then, but and like that's only one part of it, because it's kind of like that stuff is kind of behind the computer screen. So as you're applying, like I think it's important to be doing the research out there, like what's out there, because that research is also helpful. But in an environment like this, networking is more important than ever. Like, and so I would say if you're spending 10 to 20 hours on your job search,
mhm,
how do you split up that 10 hours, throughout the week, right? Um, is it like 5 hours applying to like 5 hours researching and 5 hours applying? Or could it be more something like two 2 to 3 hours researching, 2 to 3 hours applying, and then 2 to 3 hours, like maybe switch it up, maybe some 2 to 3 hours networking. And networking can also include research, right? Researching on who you want to connect with or what events are out there, going to an event, going to a panel event, getting new information, because that's not like just behind a computer screen. You're actually engaging with people that are in the field. And I think, to your point, Christine, about like how frustrating and how overwhelming it can be too. Like, I think that's another reason why networking is so important, to have like build your community, build people that are going to build you up, right? And encourage you, and keeping that wellness for yourself too. So yeah, like thinking about
yeah,
all of your
uh,
career activities and your job
yeah.
search activities, and making networking a critical component to the
Yeah.
search.
Yeah, I
I hope
wish
that's
that
helpful.
the career services, like I'm saying like in general with all the CUNYs, because this isn't the only CUNY that I've gone to. Like I went to Hunter as well and I went to BMCC. But I wish that more connections with the organizations, even in terms of like being able to get in an interview with the organization. I
I'm
wish
sorry, I'm
that
not sure
like
if I
there was more.
understand your question.
No, I'm saying that I wish that the career services in general was able to connect us more with organizations in terms of receiving an interview. Like that there was more of like a connection with that within the career services for the students to be able to be
Mm,
connected to organizations in terms of for an interview and being hired.
that's more like a placement type thing, where it's sort of
Yeah, I
like
wish
in
that they
this.
had that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like
because it would
that
be
is
like
that
better
is
for the
like
students.
in this in you for career services, it's about like the engagement, right? Like
Yes.
and so like that kind of connection, like at career fair, that's why attending these events, like every time
Mm-hmm.
CUNY SPH or other schools are hosting events with employers, any discovery series, any info session, that is a chance to connect with the employer, because it's the employer that makes the decision on who they want to interview. It's their time that they want to use in that. Like that's not anything that CUNY can ask them to do, right? Like, but we can put strong candidates in front of them that they will want to connect with. So I think that kind of goes back to kind of having those strong materials, and also like making relationships building a part of the job search. And kind of like sort of like going back to that reaching out for these informational conversations, sort of like, and how to have them too, right? Like,
Mhm.
knowing who you are and what you might have in common with them, and sort of like being clear about what you're asking in those conversations. Like, is it more on the career journey advice, or like how they made certain decisions in their time, or like in their current role, and also, or is it about the industry trends? And this is not just one conversation. It could just be the start of many conversations. So it's not like you have to feel like you have to ask everything all at once, but you could just thank them. It's like, thank you so much for your time. I really value this time. I'd love to like follow up, like take a look at some of those publications that you mentioned, or check out that event. Would love to connect with you again next month, right? So like keep and continuing engaging with people that you have good conversations with. And another thing that other people have been mentioning is sort of like how frustrating it is, like if you're applying to opportunities and not hearing back, right? And so if you find yourself in that place of receiving a lot of like automatic rejection emails, or just the crickets black hole, like nothingness, it might be time to like revise that strategy. So before you click submit on that next application, it might be helpful to keep that employer's perspective in mind about why you'd be a good fit for the position, and how you can convince that target audience. Like thinking through, like doing that analysis between your job description and your resume and cover letter materials. Like, have you shown that deep interest or enthusiasm for the company or the position, and um, highlighted your relevant skill sets, your experience, and your motivation? Kind of like making sure you proofread your documents, and making sure everything's like spelled correctly. And like it's possible that your resume may not be making it even to a human, because many companies, they use these ATS, applicant tracking systems, to weed out resumes due to the volume of applicants that are so high. So that ATS electronically scans your resume and scores it, your qualifications based on that job description, right? So, and ranks it. So recruiters really rely on these ATS systems to make their screening process more efficient. And like some statistics are like the vast majority are phased out of consideration because they don't even pass the screening. So, again, I'm going to say like networking is one of the best ways around ATS, right? Because if you're able to tailor your resume for that position, and incorporate the right keywords and phrases, and have that like common language, then like having somebody that's in your network at that organization, they can kind of like also maybe do something on the internal side, right? So I will say, like, it can really be easy to get discouraged in the job hunt. And, going for the things that you're interested in and passionate about, try to communicate that throughout every step in the hiring process, networking included. And that'll help you get along, even through the interviewing. So every opportunity you take on is an opportunity to learn, and every setback sets you up for something bigger and better down the road. So keep applying to positions and keep making connections. And you'll also want to keep track of all of these applications and interactions. So, some things on staying organized. Here are kind of like some ways to like create a job search tracker. And I'm also going to drop, let's see where are all these links. I'm also going to drop some resource links in the chat. About creating a job search tracker, like a one-stop shop document where you can kind of keep track of what you're applying to, when was that job posted? Like you can create this document where it's showing maybe you're doing your research and you're just scanning through the jobs. And like you don't have to apply to it right away. Do that maybe at the end of the week or something like that, and just apply to your top 2 or 3, right? And then in your tracker, put the date that you applied. It's also good to know when that application due date is, because some companies may wait until that application deadline. Like if it's June 30th, they're not even going to look at any resumes until June 30th. Like you might not want to wait till June 30th to apply. Usually there's like a 2 week to, maybe 1 to at most maybe 2 month window, or it'll get reposted, but at minimum 2 weeks, right? So knowing when it was posted is also helpful, because if it's a really hot job, they might only keep it open for 2 weeks, because they might have too many applicants and stuff like that. So knowing when the job is posted and when that application deadline is also helpful to figure out when you should submit your application, or when you might, after you've submitted, when you might expect an interview or like hearing back. And so we're also going to go into breakout rooms as a way to sort of like use this opportunity to network and share your journeys. And I'm going to drop the breakout room sharing prompts in the chat, but before, and just so you have an idea, but before we go into that, I have some resources to share as well, more resources to go through, because I know that we're getting at time soon, and I want to make sure everybody gets these resources. But this is like bonus time, and I feel like this is the most important time to really connect and ask more questions. Like I've shared some of these like job search websites, as well as that networking activity mapping worksheet, along with this is going to be an informational. I think I shared that one, the informational interviewing guide, like questions that you can ask and how to, and even an article on how to like organize a job search. Other things that I want to make sure that people are aware of, like earlier before, only a third of you have utilized your APHA student membership. And I just want to quickly showcase some of these things to you, because this is also a way that you can really, this is the CUNY SPH Dean's Office paid that $100 for your student membership to APHA. This is one of the best gifts that they provide to students. And so you get all those APHA emails. Go to the very first email that is your welcome email. Click that link so that you can use your SPH email to like create a password and that sort of a thing. The first thing that you're like, there are member sections, and let me just drop APHA resources for you. That way you can all follow along if you're on your computers. Okay. So, like somebody else mentioned before, public health is so broad. Well, the American Public Health Association is so broad that it has separated this organization into different, what they call member sections, or what I'm going to call clubs and organizations under the umbrella of APHA. So this whole like term of member section is a little confusing, but like it's just basically a club and org under APHA. And as you can see, there's like over 30 topical areas. And so if you haven't already done so, your membership allows you to join 2. Just join 2, and I'm just going to open like epidemiology is like one of the larger ones here. So they're all laid out the same, but what you can see is that here's a listing of all the leaders there. These are people that you can look up on LinkedIn. And even all these also other areas like committees and things like that. Connect with them to see if there's ways that you can get involved. There's also events that they have. They might have podcasts. Some of them even have like social media. So get on their social media handles with at least two of these member sections. If the member section is not for you, you could switch it. So it's no big deal. Another thing about your APHA membership is that there is a mentor database. It's as simple as filling out your APHA profile and then clicking enroll as a mentee. Once you do so, you will have access to everybody that, if people have worked for over 5 or 10 years, APHA emails them and says, hey, would you like to be a mentor? And if they say yes, they put their name on this mentor directory, which you have access to. So these are people that have already said, yes, I'll talk to students, I'll talk to new professionals as a way to network. And so, this can also be a starting place for just to do a little bit of that research. And yeah, I'm so glad that it's helpful to know there's more. Wait, there's more bells and whistles. So other resources that are important are, I'm going to talk about Big Interview, which is also associated with your APHA membership, and then Interview Prep. Those are the last 2 resources before we go into breakout rooms. So Big Interview, just so you know, it's actually a subscription platform that costs probably like $40 or $50 a month. So because APHA gives this as a benefit for all of its members, you're getting this for free. That's why you see APHA here in front. So what you need to do is you need to register for this first with your APHA password and like your SPH email. Once you register, then you can log in. Now, before we talked about, tailoring your materials and that sort of a thing. So like this platform is called Big Interview, but it's 2 in 1. A newer feature is this Big Resume thing. So this Big Resume thing, it has an AI scanner. We were talking about applicant tracking systems. Here's a way that you can scan your resume. You can select a scoring guide, like since you're graduate students, you've already graduated. So you're either an alumni, like an undergraduate alumni with some experience or no experience. So once you select one of these scoring categories, then you copy and paste that job description, and then you upload your resume, and it will give you, it'll scan it, and then it'll mark it bronze, silver, gold kind of thing. So you'll get feedback on like how well your keywords match and other things. I think the other thing that I love about this Big Interview, Big Resume platform is that they've got curriculums. So they've got curriculums like short videos that you can just like look through. It covers resume, cover letters, everything. On the interview side, cool so far with the resume AI scanner. I think some people have been using it. They really like it. So here is the Big Interview platform. And on here, they also have like a learning module with videos as well as a practice. So let me just show you what's on the learning module. And they have entire curriculum. And they even have a job search curriculum of 8 videos. And these videos are like, look at them. The majority of them cover networking along with LinkedIn, just to name a few things on that. But it gives you kind of curriculums on resume, on interviews, everything. So that's on the learning. On the practice, these are the practice sets. I love these. So it's basically a look in the mirror where you could practice with, top 10 questions. And here is, you'll get this person, Stacy, and you press play, and Stacy here will ask you these 10 questions on the left, and it will record your answer to each question. And then after you finish answering question 1, you press next to go to question 2, and that's so on and so forth. So like the top 10 most common questions, they could be asked in like a very direct way, or they could be asked in like a tricky, tough, challenging way. They also give tips and answers for all of these. So like, it'll walk you through and give you even some examples. My favorite way to practice is, and for industry, like this is also great for those that are, thinking about med school or PA school. They have those for like admissions as well. Competency and skill set is my favorite one. So like if in a job description, they ask for like someone with strong analytical skills. Well, what questions in an interview will come up around analytical skills? Here is a way that you can kind of take a look at this and thinking about your accomplishments and your experiences as a way to practice. So I love Big Interview and just having like this mock interview at your fingertips just to like practice and that sort of thing with tips and answers as well. So the last thing on here, and again, Big Interview and Resume AI Scanner is with your APHA membership. Something else that's a really cool resource is Interview Prep NYC. And they are volunteer professionals, they're leaders in their fields that are volunteering to support CUNY students in interviewing skills development. And they offer free mock interviews. And so what you'll do is just go onto their website and just connect with them. Just have send them an email with your resume and a job description and say your career coach at SPH referred you and you'd like to start practicing and your interviewing skills. Like you don't have an interview scheduled yet, but you'd like to get started practicing. And I mean, you can learn more about all the different coaches that they have. They have over a dozen that have volunteered to support CUNY students. So here's a sample of some of the people that you might potentially meet. Additionally, they had come and joined our event earlier this year. So you can kind of watch that video and like learn more about some of them. They introduce themselves there. Yeah, so this is like the Big Interview curriculum and Interview Prep NYC and how to connect with them. Start doing that earlier. That way you can kind of, I think sometimes interviewing will help you maybe even with that reflection process of understanding your skill sets. And perhaps that can be helpful as you the more that you interview and talk to other people, you might want to adapt your materials, your application materials too, as you go along. So that's another way to do it. And with that, we are going to go into breakout rooms. And just a reminder that in our breakout rooms, I know that we're just about at time. If you're able to stay, it is to your benefit to connect with other folks. I'm also going to be staying around and I will be zooming around to all the rooms, and I will also stay on after the 15 minutes to answer questions at the end. But in our breakout rooms, just a reminder, it's ideal to have the camera on because having a face to the name is the best, and just making space for one another so that everybody gets a chance to share. And if you're on the quiet side, please step it up to take up some space. And as always, that our tone is inclusive and that we share in this creating this cultural community together. So I am going to drop these breakout room questions in the chats to give you some time to get to know one another and introduce each other. And then we'll come back for a quick share out and I'll stick around to answer any individual questions for folks. Okay.